Hello, welcome to the At U2 podcast, episode number 85, where we're talking U2 news and tour dates and album news and community discussions from the staff of AtU2.com. I'm your host, Chris Enns, and I am joined on this episode by Mason Merritt. Hello, Mason.
Hi.
Mason. Not Mason Merritt is here, and he keeps shrinking and disappearing on us because his satellite of love for internet is floating away.
Caught in an electrical storm. There
you go. And Mr. Collin, welcome back, Collin.
Thank you very much.
And you've got a storm as well, apparently, right?
Yeah, well, we need it.
Okay. And Sherry, welcome back.
Hey, you and I are rock and roll, my friend.
Yeah, for those watching or those not able to watch, Collin and Sherry are both rocking their, what are their shirts called? The megaphone shirt, I guess,
Uncasville,
right?
Baby.
Uncasville, Chicago. Somehow they fit Uncasville on a shirt. And
God bless you.
Somehow they fit it on the tour.
Yeah, exactly. We'll cover that in a moment, but when we get to this is Sherry's life of the last month or so, but just in terms of some U2 news and stuff that has happened over the last little while, actually, Sherry's been our, in a sense, our roving reporter, not paid by, mind you, but first of all, I guess going back in the history archives, you were back, when was the dates of the U2 conference in Belfast that happened? You were at with a bunch of at U2 staffers as well who were there.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get Scott Calhoun on to give a fuller recap, but it was about 2.5 days of deep dives into the academicness of U2, looking primarily at pop as pop vision and how it ties into the 20th anniversary of the Belfast of the Northern Ireland Peace Agreement. So we held it in Belfast with support from Queen's University and the George Mitchell Institute for Peace and the Ulster Museum, which was just awesome. Everybody was just so friendly and so kind. And we had Steve Averill and Sean McGrath from AMP Visual Design give a keynote. We had Catherine Owens give a keynote. We had Stuart Bailey, who just wrote an awesome book called Trouble Songs. I highly recommend it, all about the role of music in the Troubles and in the peace up in Northern Ireland. So that was great. But I have to say that my favorite part happened between Steve Stockman and Andy Rowan, talking about Andy's story and how Bono came to write Bad and Raised by Wolves, all about him and the issues that happened because of the bombings back in 1974. What was weird was Andy actually brought the shrapnel. I mean, Bono said in interviews that he carries around the shrapnel with him, and we thought, well, that's kind of odd, but he really does. And it still has the smells of 1974. It's smooth. It's in it's in the shape of a gun almost. And Andy uses it sometimes just to, remind himself of the fact that he's survived a lot in his life. And what was really funny was he was talking about his journey to recovery, and that it brought him to a clinic in Cleveland in 2011. And when he completed his cycle there, he was invited to go to see U2 in Pittsburgh. And of course, if you went to the show, you know that Bono threw in Bad at the end of the show, which put the band over their allotted time. And so the band ended up paying quite a bit of money for going over curfew, but it was well worth it.
All right, for the AtU2 Roundtable for this episode, we're going to talk a bit about just recapping and reviewing Experience Innocence. The tour has finished now in North America, and we all collectively, I didn't add it up beforehand, I guess, but we've seen enough of the shows, I feel like, anyways, to be able to give a varied opinion on it. There's 27 shows in total as I counted them, not counting Apollo and Sherry's Beach House. It's across 17 cities.
Which was my beach house.
It did look like
$2 million beach house. Thank you very much.
It did look like they were performing in a John Irving novel, I gotta say.
More Nicholas Sparks, but I get what you're saying.
So I thought we'd break this up into some, I don't know if you guys have itemized lists or not, but like positives, negatives, and then hopes and dreams for Europe and beyond for this tour. So maybe just starting off with, I guess, some of the positives that you really saw on this tour. You don't have to give a recap of every single show, obviously, but just like how many shows of this tour did you see, and what were some of the positives that you saw coming out of this tour, especially if you did see Innocence and Experience, sort of how it relates to this new frame of the tour. I don't know who wants to kick us off here, but we can go
Mason.
Clockwise.
Yeah.
Mason.
Yeah, I mean, I got to see the first show and then the second to last show and then a special event kind of in between, and I think it was a strong tour. There was I don't think there were any glaring weaknesses about it. I think there were plenty of strengths, but post show on Sunday night, I went out with fellow at U2 staffer Tasula and friend of the show, Michelle, and we kind of all came to the same conclusion in terms of rankings that we all liked Innocence and Experience best, Joshua Tree second, and then Experience and Innocence third. And that's, may sound like it's the redheaded stepchild, so to speak, but I think it more speaks to the fact that this is so radically similar. I guess it's radical in the sense that you strip away all these hallmark songs and you change around certain production elements, you add so much new stuff, but it's also the same as Innocence and Experience in many ways. So I think it, much like Zooropa, I think it's an addendum to Innocence and Experience, and maybe a little bit less a sequel. It's kind of finishing the thought instead of conjuring one up for itself. So that's what I'll say, just to kick things off.
Sure, Colin. How about you? Any on the positive side of the fence?
Oh yeah. I think this tour is fantastic. I mean, the one gripe you could say is, not enough spontaneity, but the show that's there, I think there's a lot to talk about. And I think of all the tours that I've seen, starting with Zoo TV, it is the most conceptually coherent tour that they've done since Zoo TV. I mean, it is a performance. It is not a rock show, and I think it's the perfect coda to Innocence and Experience. It's the perfect bookend to, like, from where that show started to where this show ends. I think is so moving. That's the thing for me. This is a really moving performance show. It's really poignant. It's satirical. It's funny. I get excited about it. I don't think there's a dull moment in it. I think I wasn't there opening night, which was obviously a much longer show than it ended up being later on, but it's a tight show. I'm really happy that they stuck to their guns with the set list, and they didn't cave into any kind of fan pressure. They said, this is the show. This is what we're doing. This is what excites us. And it thrills me to no end that, they went all out. They brought back Mephisto and they brought back Acrobat, and they nailed them into the show. They weren't going anywhere. I absolutely love that. So I'll stop because I'll just keep going.
We do have time right now, but we'll give Sherry a chance to. Sure. What about you?
Well, let's hear. I saw it in Tulsa, Uniondale, both Bostons, Uncasville, and followed along online for most of those other shows, doing our online stuff. And Acrobat was the crown in the crown jewel of this tour. For the fans, it was that one song off of Achtung Baby that we all wanted to hear. But as everybody has pointed out, you've got to have the right tone going into it. You've got to have the right mood going into it. And I remember coming out of Tulsa saying, wow, that was different. The show grew on me. But this is a show that's not necessarily designed for people who are going to go to multiple shows. And it really shouldn't have been designed for people who go to multiple shows. So once again, like what others have said, I'm glad that they stuck to their guns and kept it as a performance. This was a piece of performance art. It wasn't a concert to me. Because it was so similar every single night. The only thing that changed was song 5. It was either going to be a Gloria night, it was going to be a Red Flag night, or it was going to be,
All because of you.
All Because of You night. That was the rotation. That was the only place where you could get a rotation. And I know that Tulsa, it was a slightly longer show, but they threw in there Raised by Wolves. There's only a few shows that song remained in. But, I will agree that was too much of the Innocence tie-in. You could have put in another song, and there were other songs that they could have rotated in, like Please or Gone, just to keep up with the pop theme. But this is a show where you're not going to see this ever again. So Europe, in Uncasville, I heard whispers that there will be changes for Europe. So I don't know how much is going to get changed or how little. Who knows about that yet? We still have about 8 weeks before that launches. But there was also more of a playfulness on stage. The band felt very comfortable with the material. I think that there is a comfort level in performing the same song night after night in the same way night after night. You can then lose yourself within the performance, and as the tour went on, you definitely saw that, which made it even more pleasant to be able to go multiple nights, because you could see how they loved to interact with one another. From a non-musical standpoint, you've got fans going, "Oh my God, Larry's wearing a blazer. Oh my God, Larry's wearing glasses. Oh my God, everybody's wearing clothes that are black and white or gray." There was very little color, which Kelly Eddington will complain about with this tour, because as she paints, she likes to have lots of color, and there really wasn't a lot of color on this tour. It was black and white and every shade of gray. But this is also a tour that we couldn't have had in 2015, simply because the way that the world events are going on right now, and the dynamics of having the current government in place in our country, the 2015 show feels like it was a generation ago. So I think U2 grabbed the bull by the horns and wanted to make a statement. And that's why, this is more art than it is a rock show, in my opinion. Not saying that that's good or bad, but that's what it was. And like Collin said, it was very much like Zoo TV. Zoo TV in '92, very, very few changes to that set. And thankfully I was able to compare this particular production with that one. Zoo is almost like the Innocence to the Experience of 2018.
Yeah, it's something where they've gotten the ability. Not that they've never been a really spontaneous band. They, even at their most playful or whatever with set list, but they are. Maybe they had like the last few tours where they did have more spontaneity. They brought Bono, let Bono bring people up on stage, and they let sort of random songs get thrown in more and stuff like that. This tour, maybe they just wanted, it was a reaction to that and wanting to have just sort of like a set list that they locked into and could just try and really nail really well, like you said. And I think bearing that in mind, I give them a lot of credit. It was, I felt, having now a month or so beyond having seen them in Montreal, and then obviously, yeah, like Sherry catching a bunch of the shows online through Periscope and etc. It does give you a bit of like, if you're not there in person, it gives a bit of like exhaustion from, or a lack of excitement, I guess, knowing that basically every song is going to be the same, and then, like you said, just song 5 is going to change, and so you kind of want like you sort of wonder, I guess, or I wonder if the Larry and Adam, I think it was, whoever it was, back after the Joshua Tree tour of the original Joshua tour, where they're like, are we just going to be a greatest hits band going out on stage, performing the same songs night after night, and sort of complaining about that idea, and then coming up with Zoo TV as like the response to that, what they're going to do now in response to this, but I guess there's still we still have Europe to sort of contend with. So, because it did sort of sense to me like, and this is very like subjective. There's no way to know, and because the band themselves never really said much to this effect, but just a bit of like tiredness to the performance sometimes, where that when they know what's coming next, guitar wise or drums or whatever, it's very procedural and not as like doesn't come packed with as much emotion. But I think they're a band that does feed and has fed off the audience in such a huge way that the audience's excitement over hearing Pride for the millionth time or whatever pushes them over back into like just enjoying the moment, regardless of how many times they've played those chords or hit the drums for that or whatever. So I think it's by any measure on the positive side, for sure, it's a thing where you should get to see this show if you can, whatever sort of measures you're allowed or able to take to get out and see the show in Europe, worth seeing by definitely. And even if you saw Innocence and Experience, I think we would all agree, right? Like there's no way to sort of, if you saw Innocence and Experience, that you should be like, I've already seen this show, I can skip this one, right? Like, am I?
Yeah, it's a completely different experience.
Yeah.
Innocence is, in a sense, a more compromising show. I think that it does it kind of takes the spontaneity, like we talked about. Those first few Eat Stage songs were very rotational. Yeah, you got Elevation, Desire most nights, but there were more nights where you didn't hear either of those back to back, and it was, I think, Innocence and Experience was at the end of the day a more full kind of experience and spanning different emotions than Experience and Innocence, which felt very much of right now and of today. Whereas if in 10 years you go back and you can watch and appreciate Innocence and Experience, because the themes that they're talking about are lasting, with whether it be refugees, whether it be just trying to find home. And Experience and Innocence feels like Sherry said, this is written for, May through whenever this ends, November of 2018. And you can't it's just hard to get into this kind of moment when you're not into this moment. And that's great for us, but for people going back and, pillaging through YouTube's history, they might look back at Experience and Innocence and think it's either painful or it's awkward. And that can be a turnoff for some people, but
yeah, we'll see if it's the post-apocalyptic future that we all end up in, portrayed in some of the videos. Then maybe we'll be like, those are the good old days.
When we're hanging out in caves, we'll be like, wow, I really miss seeing Acrobat.
Yeah, and I think as far as the question, well, if I've already seen it, should I go see this show? I mean, we're talking really only about 4 songs that are similar to that show. Everything else is pretty much brand new. Mm-hmm. And I think the Innocence tour, conceptually, it's very strong up until about the E Stage stuff, and then it kind of becomes more greatest hits. Becomes more of a greatest hits show. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's kind of what it is. But this one, there's definitely a structure to it that it's definitely, it doesn't veer off into any sort of greatest hits territory. It's and also you've also got, if you're in the stands, there's an extra visual treat on the E Stage that they didn't have before. So they're really playing with the ramp and the E Stage, and mm-hmm. throwing in graphics and everything, which I think is really cool. I didn't get to see it in the stands. I wish I did. So I'm really looking forward to a home video version that will fill me in on everything that happens there. But no, this is I definitely don't skip this if just because you've already seen Innocence. There's 4 songs that you will have seen already that they're pretty much kind of doing the same way again, but that's a small part of the show, and a pretty necessary one too. So
yeah, I remember 2015, as Devlin said, that they could have done so much more, that Innocence and Experience was only at 50% of what the grand concept was. So I'm thinking that, looking at what they've been able to do in 2018, hopefully they did take a lot more of Ez's design and incorporated it in. Going back to the Joshua Tree tour, though, being able to get those 11 songs performed in 2017, that allowed that space in the set list for them to incorporate those different songs, which 2015 didn't have that luxury for. There were people, ain't gonna lie, there were people who were missing songs from the Joshua Tree. I mean, at the end of Boston 1, this was so funny. A couple rows behind us at the end of the show tapped me on my shoulder and said, "Is that it? Did they really end with 13? Where was I? Still haven't found what I'm looking for. Where's Streets? They're coming back, right?" Like, no, that was the end of the show. And they were like, no. I'm like, yeah, that's the end of the show. Well, why haven't the lights turned back on? Well, because the band's getting into their cars and they're getting out of the arena. The lights will come back on once they're out of the building, because that's what typically happens. And she's like, I can't believe that they didn't play Streets. I'm like, a lot of people can't believe that either, but they kind of told people they weren't going to be doing that. Yeah. Edge said in Rolling Stone, this was a tour for the diehards and for the committed fan. That was it, for the committed fan. And I believe that he hit the nail on the head with describing it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting turn of phrase for the band, because I mean, there's many different ways you could spin that. Of like, I guess we can sort of dive into the bit of the negative side of our review, as it were, of the tour. But you would think for the diehards you'd want sort of more deeper cuts and a less repeated set list every night, that kind of thing. But I'm willing to go with him on that idea, and also that sometimes in interviews you kind of just say stuff too, which I think, as we look at what may be coming in the future with what Edge, Adam, etc. have said, it feels a bit like Adam and Edge have been asked to do a bit more on the speaking tour than Bono, maybe for whether it's health reasons or just because Bono's used up all his words for 2018 already, and in all his speeches during the shows, and so he has to save his words for Europe or whatever. But they're obviously, I think they're able to be a little more freer. They're not so much PR controlled maybe as they used to be back in the day, and speaking for the band and the organization more than they used to be. But we'll see what happens. So
I think Bono's letting.
Sorry,
I think
Sherry,
Bono's,
go ahead.
Sorry, I think Bono's letting the music do the talking this time. He learned his lesson back in '87 about being too speechy about politics in countries that, yeah, even my dog agrees, about politics in a country that he doesn't have citizenship to. So they've just been letting the visuals do the talking. They're letting the music do the talking. And Edge has been a lot more vocal about his political leanings and such, far more than he's ever been. So that's been a refreshing change. So what were you about to say, Mason?
No, I only wanted to bring this up just because I did hear some people deriding it and criticizing Edge for it, where the key word in committed fan is committed. And they said themselves, we worked our butts off to get these to write songs of innocence and songs of experience. And, committed fans aren't the ones who will just outright refuse to listen to it just because it's not new. Committed fans will give it a shot, or committed fans will maybe even grow to like it. So I happen to agree with him. I came into my YouTube fandom with Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience. So in a ways, Cedarwood Road is my Where the Streets Have No Name, or Iris is my With or Without You, or whatever. And I just, I don't fault them for kind of forcing us to eat our vegetables in a way, and like making us like pay attention to this. This is good too. We worked on these songs for you, and we want you to enjoy them. And if you have to twist some arms to do it, I think that's more than appropriate.
Yeah, and I think they really do sell these songs. I mean, I gotta say, I was not really excited about You're the Best Thing About Me, and I wasn't excited about hearing it performed live. I thought it was just going to be, just a song to get through to get to the next thing. But the intro to it is beautiful, and the stripped down, I was not expecting the stripped down version that they ended up doing, and it totally sold me on the song. Like, I'm absolutely a fan of that song now. Same with Love is Bigger Than Anything in Its Way. I mean, I like that song, but I think they sell it big time live. At least the shows that I went to, the audience was really into it, as though it were a classic U2 song. And I mean, yeah, he's doing the, wave your arm thing, which is a, gimmicky thing that a lot of rock stars do, which is, to get the audience into it, but it works. I mean, and, and the melody is there, and it sounds beautiful. So I mean, they're definitely really, just the commitment to these songs, I think, is really special on this tour.
You would hope so, because this is a tour to promote the album. So they haven't lost that in translation either. I mean, they're still playing 8 or 9 songs off the new album.
Right. That didn't happen on 360 when they were doing No Line on the Horizon. I mean, they dropped, but they did what? By the end of that tour, they were doing maybe 2 or 3 songs off that album?
Yeah. Yeah. 2009, they were really hyping it. And by the end of the tour in 2011, it was like Get On Your Boots and No Line, I think. Was
Moment of Surrender was the
Magnificent.
Oh,
yeah.
And Moment of Surrender. Yeah. Moment of Show Ender, as I like to call it. But
I love that album.
No, I am
stand
upset.
by that album.
I am upset. They made a song for the fans called The Showman. That was his letter to the fans. We got it spoken word maybe twice, and that was it. You are performing this to your fan community, and you're not doing the song that you wrote for the fans.
That would have been a good song for McFisto to sing in character.
Oh yeah, and then you get one side going, you make it look so good, the other side goes a little more better, and it's a lot more playful.
It was a little bit of a whiff, I agree.
Yeah, and then you also had those who really missed little things that give you away, thought that this was a missed opportunity, expecting it to really shine on this tour, and it never showed up. So, those are 2 areas that I just felt like you missed the boat on it if you were to have any major criticisms. At the start of the tour, they were on one of their Instagram feeds. They had shown this big wheel of like a carnival barker wheel that had the 7 deadly sins on it, and I guess it never really fit physically as part of the show. So what they did, getting back to your point, Collin, about having something visual on the E stage during Desire, it looked like a roulette wheel or a carnival barker wheel, and it was spinning with the 7 deadly sins spinning around on that, wondering which one are you going to fall on. So they were at least able to incorporate that visually, if not, physically. So that's like a little minutia point that I don't think anybody brought up about the tour yet. But no, I feel like there were a couple missed opportunities. I felt like once again with the AR app, it was more kitsch than anything else. I'm not bothered by it one way or the other, but it did drain your cell phone battery quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And it never changed throughout the tour. You still had the iceberg, you still had the melting, you still had the big black square once the iceberg was gone. So that was kind of glitchy about it. And then that was it. You only used it for the one song and for the pre-show, and that was it. You could have done a lot more with that.
At least the 2 shows I saw in Montreal, they didn't even. There was nothing on the screen to tell you. There's never an indication to pull out your phones or to like use it in any way.
You just had to know. All those.
Was that the same like right from the beginning?
Posters. Yeah. All the Edel Studio posters would be showing, and then all of a sudden the screen just went to the static thing. Yeah. And Tulsa, you just had to naturally know that you pulled out your phone. So of course, those who did were instructing others what was going on and why we were holding up our phones. And then the venues started sending out reminders about the show coming up, and oh yeah, don't forget to download the Experience AR app for use before the show starts. And I think Willie didn't want to put on the screen, turn on your app now type of thing. He just wanted it to happen organically. So some people took advantage of it. The problem is in areas of the venue, if you were on one of the corners, you couldn't trigger it because you couldn't get the right angle on the app. And in some arenas, especially Uncasville, because it was so small, we didn't have the screens on the opposite ends of the stage where, I was straight on in back of the stage, so I couldn't see what was on either side of the screen. And we didn't have a screen, so I couldn't even take advantage of it from my seat for the last show.
Right. But yeah, you didn't miss much with it. But it is just an odd thing to like have made a big deal out of the fact that they're using it and then not really do much with it. I mean, it was a neat little intro and a way to get into the show, into thematically, but it was an odd choice of I feel like anyways ways to sort of embrace that. And even like McPhisto's segment could have like played a bit with technology and stuff.
Oh my goodness, we need the McPhisto filter.
Yeah.
For our Instagram or
well,
whatever.
Instagram actually just today I got a promotion in Instagram or a news thing saying like the new like artist specific face filters now available. So if you follow Ariana Grande or whatever, you get her face filter. So like it would be such easy marketing push. Yeah, whether you like, but there's that idea of like what a perfect way to like just promote this tour to an audience of folks who will never, not never, but likely never grace the arenas of Experience and Innocence on the next leg or whatever, and plus just having a bit of fun with your fans too, like giving them, because I don't know, it would be some promotional cost that they'd have to eat obviously to do that, but they've already got the filter made, so just copy it over to Instagram and away you go. It is you brought up a bit of the set list thing, since we're having trouble being in the negative spirit, because I know we all love you too, but that idea of like they've often called the sort of heart of darkness of the set list or whatever, and sort of maintaining the Iris, Cedarwood Road, Sunday Bloody Sunday until the end of the world segment, which I really enjoy. Like, and definitely, sorry, not Iris. I would definitely still keep Iris, but the Cedarwood Road, Sunday Bloody Sunday, which I'm really happy they kept in so that I could see, but because I didn't see Innocence and Experience, but sort of wondering, like, just skipping the sort of downer, dark portion of the show, like they normally have, where like Sunday Bloody Sunday or Bullet to Blue Sky would have previously occupied, and just going with like little things and other like new album material that they could have just sort of worked in. And I don't know that people would have been that missed those songs as much. Sunday Bloody Sunday obviously had its moments and it was a really neat performance of it, but again, replicating what they had from Innocence and Experience into this tour, I feel like that was where they could have been a bit more interesting. Again, if they're going for sort of the like feeding us our vegetables or whatever, like Mason said, that would have been a great spot to throw some carrots in, I feel like. But
yeah, I called that lazy. I actually put in print that was lazy, that they had copied the production
note for
point by point on those particular tracks.
Well, then wouldn't that undercut the ending then? If you don't see Cedarwood Road, on the screen, then for most people, why is he taking a light bulb out of a house?
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, I agree that it could have been a little bit more inspired.
Yeah, but they didn't do Joey Ramone. So where's this light bulb coming from?
Well, I don't think the light bulb is as big is as important as the house is. I mean, I think people are maybe smart enough to kind of understand the symbolism behind taking a light out of a house. And if you don't have Cedarwood Road or that little area of the show, then the ending, you don't really understand it. It'd be almost like a plot hole, kind of.
And also, I mean, not just Cedarwood, but Iris. Iris ends with, the star, Bono's, the image of Bono's mother going into the stars, and the stars creating this big light bulb that goes into this house. And that's where Cedarwood Road starts. So, I definitely think there's a through line in there that makes the very end of the show make more sense. And you can't just assume that everybody remembers a few years ago in the Innocence tour that the show started with a light bulb. You got to kind of like either remind certain people or just give everybody a chance to get in on that image and make it mean what they want it to mean. So I don't think it's lazy. I think it's necessary.
There is also, though, I want to point this out because it's not really obvious. Lights of Home is a light, and it's a home.
Yes.
And so then you have the home.
I don't follow.
I'm just kidding. I agree.
Incorporated it there.
I agree. Yeah, that's definitely an option.
You could have incorporated it into the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I know we can debate that a few different ways, and I think that's where I wish I'm like on the positive side. I'm really glad they had a strong set list that they just locked into and went hard with, and this is our game plan for the tour or whatever. On the other hand, I wish night 2, night 3, or whatever in various stops they could have said, what if we did this there and just tried that out on the crowd, not just in Laval or whatever at rehearsal, but actually tried it out and just really sort of blew some folks' minds with a bit of the full production, full song, not just like changing the song with no video elements added to it. But that's asking a lot more of production and crew and the poor video guy.
And one other criticism, right now, this tour is not slated to go to Australia. It's not slated to go to Asia. Yeah. It's not slated to go to areas of the world that hasn't had a U2 show since 2010, 2011. And that's not right.
Yeah.
I think people know very strongly that there is a U2 Come to Australia movement out there. And Chris, I think in the mailbox, somebody asked about, do we believe Adam when he says that they're not going to tour in 2019? What a missed opportunity. So when they do tour again, do not open in the States, do not open in Europe, open in Australia. Honor those fans, please.
Or Saskatoon.
Yeah.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
Or better yet, remember when Innocence first started, they were going to do 2 nights in every city. Yeah. Like they booked 2 nights in every city because there was one night was going to be Innocence, the other one was Experience. Go back to that for these places
and do it for them.
Yeah, exactly. Do the Innocence show. Do the Innocence show on night 1. Do the Experience show on night 2. Do it.
And then night 3, do Joshua Tree tour. It's perfect. Get it all in one fell swoop. There you go.
Exactly.
No, they get Innocence, then Joshua, then Experience, like we did, right?
That's,
or just do one long 9-hour show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Do we think sort of look into the future a bit and whatever may happen for Europe, obviously, but it is like I agree, Sherry, that they almost like I don't know for Australian fans, New Zealand, elsewhere in the world that haven't had U2 really, Japan and South America got them on Joshua Tree, but didn't get Innocence and Experience, right? If I remember correctly.
Right.
Saskatoon, don't forget.
Saskatoon has never had U2, so let's not leave them out of this.
Manitoba, still missing out Manitoba.
Winnipeg has had them. So, but anyways,
Island. Right.
I know nothing about Canada geography. Sorry.
You're throwing off.
I just know Trebek is from there, so that's my reference point.
Right there, you go. But they did kind of like they left the door open enough at the beginning of the Experience tour and the promotion of the Experience tour, like, oh, we'd like to, oh, we might, oh, we'll see. And I really feel like they did a bit of a disservice to now, like the messaging kind of feels like, again, whether it's official or just like Adam speaking off the cuff, is probably likely not going to happen. No, we're not. And it's kind of like, it reminds me of like
Australian 60 Minutes and said, we're coming.
Yeah. Well,
I was about to bring that up. Edge said that. He said, we're coming. And Bono had to wheel it back immediately, which is never happened ever in the history of the world. So that seems strange. If you don't if it's not fully booked, you don't say that. And that's true for a concert, a movie, a theater production, anything.
Well, Sherry, I mean, I think you feel like you're the one to ask this because you have all this tour knowledge. But would they have announced it by now if they were going to do Australia or Japan or something? I mean, could they conceivably announce it like in October or November?
They announced Uncasville a month before they went to Uncasville, give or take. No, but they should do something. And I don't think that they're in a position. I mean, think about when they announced South America dates. It was right at the start of the U.S. leg of the second U.S. leg for the Joshua Tree tour, right? The petition finally got through and they figured it all out and all that other stuff.
Gaia
So
Siri
it's
arranged
still
his wedding.
conceivable.
Yeah.
And January, February time is summer down there. You would think that you would want to tour while it's warm. So it is conceivable. My other point is that after what happened with all the fan club hullabaloo with verified fan and codes and all this other stuff, what is going to be the hook that's going to get people to renew their subscriptions for 2019? What's going to be that hook? It as of right now, it's not going to be concert tickets. And then you've got a lot of Australian fans who were holding on to their codes, expecting that the tour was going to come down there. They were holding their codes for the Australian dates, only to have them not show up. And now they can't use their code because all the pre-sales had already ended over here. And this has happened tour after tour after tour now. This is now 3 tours in a row that fan base. So why should they buy into U2.com? Why should we buy into U2.com going into 2019 if we know that concert tickets aren't going to be a part of it? So I think that those types of conversations need to happen in figuring it out. I mean, I know that the band are probably tired. They want to, live life again. They don't want to be constantly on the road, and I get that. But you've got to take care of your fans, and I think that they've completely overworked the North American fan base.
Yeah.
Yeah, judging just by how many times we look at the arena setting and see how many sections are curtained off. I mean, that's that's a symptom of that, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And $325 tickets aren't really going to win people over either.
I mean, my God.
But that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's part of.
Yeah.
But
I do have some negative things to say about this tour.
That is a criticism. Yeah. We're running out of money.
Yeah, exactly.
in this part of the world, and our economy isn't exactly going to be too good for the next couple of years if these tariffs end up kicking in. So, they really have to think about other ways to get to the fans, and there are other parts of the world that deserve to see them.
Well, and they underestimate, I guess might be the right word, the ability, although like we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, of North American fans like Sherry and others as she leaves to go somewhere. They underestimate the fans' ability to travel, I guess, too, because we see at every show, like there's people from all over the world we're at Montreal that have been at all the lots of shows. So like if they put on a show, set of a tour in Australia, New Zealand, or Japan, or South America, like North American fans will travel and will come see those shows as well, especially if there's any hint, just like Australian fans have to deal with, of them not coming to North America for a couple of years. Like the fans will travel, and they have that. I mean, the fans are obviously generally, Mason notwithstanding, in that older demographic, and so they're of the age and means probably to travel. Not all of us, but some of us anyways. And so they will do that if we know that, like I think of Fabiano in Brazil, a listener of the show and a friend of At U2, who's like travels everywhere that U2 goes and, saves his money and whatever. And that's what his sort of vacation budget, I'm assuming, goes towards. And that's, what we'll do. So I don't know. We'll see. We just hopefully any Australian and otherwise, we keep using Australia as the main one, but Japan, other parts of the world that haven't had
Kiwis, New Zealand,
New Zealand folks.
Make a vacation out of it.
Yeah.
You head up Japan, head up Australia, head up New Zealand. Plan 2 shows on Saturday and Sunday, and then you got the rest of the week to yourself. I don't know.
Do a Zooropa tour in Australia, and I guarantee you the North American fans will travel.
We're looking at the 30th anniversary of Rattle and Hum, which means, 89? So that would have been 29 years ago. You had the Lovetown tour, where they took over Australia for practically the month of, October? A little bit of September, most of October, and just, heavily played down there for the month. Do that again.
Yeah.
Please.
I think they might be beholden. They might be too beholden, and I can understand this from a business production side. They might be a little bit too beholden to the idea that we have to have a concert experience set up. We have to have the big screen for Innocence and Experience, the big screen Joshua. You could really strip it down and do like an 87 kind of tour without as much hullabaloo, because they just want to see you. They just want to see the band play, where you don't have to think, well, we have to have a narrative for this, and we have to have this for that, and that for that. Like, just go play 20 songs, pick some favorites, pick some, B-sides or lesser known songs, and just have fun. I don't think they're really I haven't spoken to any Australians in my life, but I can't imagine that they're going to be too picky. It's like, oh, well, we need to hear Acrobat.
There you go, Australians. You can tweet at Mason, at not Mason Ayres. He'd love to talk to an Australian someday. Yeah,
please.
It's on his bucket list.
You guys are like unicorns. I know they're out there. I just have never seen them.
It's got to be more than just Paul Hogan, right? Yeah.
I don't even know who that is, so sure.
Wow. Okay.
There you go. That starts your research.
Is he the brother of former Stanford quarterback Kevin Hogan? Because I know him. The worst.
All right, everybody.
That's not a knife. That's not a knife.
Mason, you don't. Trust me, Mason, you don't need to see Crocodile Dundee 1, 2, or 3.
Oh, you're talking about Crocodile Dundee? I've seen Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, okay. All right. That's Paul Hogan.
Yeah.
Great
That's
film.
Not Australian.
To my Australian fans, I'm so sorry that this is the path we've chosen for this conversation.
I love you. You have a great continent. The only continent that's a country. It's fabulous. Way to go.
Yeah. If there's one thing Australians love, it's being characterized by a movie from the 80s continually for the rest of
Okay, fine. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. That's a great Australian movie. I still enjoy that film a lot.
What you should watch, Mason, is The Castle. That's the definitive Australian movie.
The Castle's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, a very young Eric Bana in there, I think. All right. Somehow we got off the rails. Yeah.
One other thing about the tour, and this is more at U2 housekeeping type of thing. I would like to say thank you to all the fans who came and tracked us down to say hello, to say they love their podcast, they love what we do, they appreciate what we do, and I mean, of the shows that I went to, there must have been at least a couple hundred combined who reached out, and I know that other staff members who were at shows had a similar experience. And we do this all out of love and passion for the band and for the fan community. And it's when we get tour seasons, when we get to be able to go out there and to see everybody too. So it's been such a joy to see all of you, to hear your stories, to hear your story suggestions. And just know that we do this out of a love and appreciation for the band and for the fans out there. And we volunteer our time and services. So, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who tracked us down.
Yeah.
Special shout out to the gentleman, I can't remember his name or what denomination he belongs to, but who bumped into us at a restaurant before Tulsa was about to begin. He was great. It was great meeting him. He's either a reverend or a pastor. You know who you are, whoever you're out there. If you're out there, so thank
Maybe
you.
He was Australian and you didn't even know it.
No, not with the way he rolled those R's. Absolutely not.
This is our "You've given us a great life" speech, I guess. Right? Is the
exactly.
Yeah. But yes, definitely, and it's always fun to interact, especially you do a podcast like this, and. Unlike a U2 show, we have, well, right now it says there's 7 people watching live. It may be 7 people, or it could be a bot for all we know. And we're hoping folks are actually listening out there, and some of you seem to be because you respond on Twitter and stuff like that. So, but we don't have a live concert venue where we're recording this, I guess is what I'm saying. And so it's fun to meet you all out there in U2 land, wherever we have to run into each other, concerts and stuff. Feels like we're shutting down the podcast or something. I don't know why we're all suddenly all nostalgic, but thank you. I guess I wanted to add on, thank you to the folks who are Mixlering and Periscoping and all that stuff, those kinds of things as well, and giving us a peek into the shows that we weren't able to be at as well, which is awesome. And Instagram stories and live and whatever else other mediums we choose to stream this stuff on. Notably absent this year was Meerkat, unfortunately. Pour one out for Meerkat. Never did come back.
Well, they're native to Australia, so this would be in bad taste.
They're actually, it's funny because the meerkats there's an exhibit at our local zoo. So every time I drive by their zoo, there's a meerkat sign. I think, oh, remember back when they used to stream, and now they're stuck at the Saskatoon Zoo. So anyways, I think that's it for this episode. You can send in your comments, questions for the show using Twitter if you want, using hashtag AskAtU2, and we'll cover it in a future episode. You can find AtU2 on twitter.com/ATU2, facebook.com/ATU2com, instagram.com/ATU2com, and there's the AtU2 news brief, which you can ask for from your smart device of choice. Your what's the Amazon one? I'm blanking for some reason right now.
Alexa,
the Google Home, the Siri one. That's a new one to me that you can ask for news briefs on if you're up to date on your iOS software. And you can also check out anchor.fm/ATU2s if you want to subscribe directly on there. And Mason, you're at Not Mason Merritt, right, on Twitter?
Yes, continually living a life of anonymity.
There you go. And Sherry, where are you at?
You know where to find me. I'm at Matt McGee.
Collin, how are you?
At Collin_Suitor.
Yeah, don't watch. If you're watching the video version, I didn't put the underscore in there. So.
Oh, make sure you put the underscore because somebody in Minnesota is going to be really confused. There actually is another Collin Suitor out there with the exact same spelling who.
Gotta fight him. That's the rules.
That's the rules. Hopefully he's not from Australia. I'm iChris on Twitter, and that's it for this episode. You can find show notes, links to stuff we've discussed, and past episodes at goodstuff.fm/ATU2. We stream this live Wednesday nights sometimes, Thursday afternoon sometimes, over on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/goodstuff_FM. And that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Thanks for watching wherever you are in the world. Have a great day. Bye.
Which is why Edge and I have taken up miniature golf.
That's not the right number one. Okay.
Oh. I just found out meerkats are native to South Africa, so I feel like a jackass. Oh well. You come here for U2, not, geological geologist crap.
Yeah.
Happens.
Well, it's on the
Sherry,
podcast.
if you need anybody to help you move, give me a call. I'm not too far away.
Hey, you need a few pieces of furniture? Come on over. It's all yours if you want it.
I'll take my only payment I accept is an R cup form. So.
Okay.
It's about.
I've got a few
no, I'm just
left.
kidding. Beer and pizza. I'm still a young person, so beer and pizza. But seriously, reach out.
Old people drink beer and eat pizza too. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, but
I resent that comment.
A thing that young people you just buy me beer and give me pizza. That we're dummies and we don't ask for proper.
I have a piece of pizza right here that I had for lunch. I'll have you know. I just can't see it because my eyes are too bad. I can't see the. No. There's some show titles I threw in as we were talking, since nobody watching was 7 of you out there watching who refused to submit titles.
Yeah, I like that Bono used up his words for 2018.
Yeah.
That one was good.
Wait, where are the choices? Are they listed on the?
Here, I'll put the link in Slack.
Oh,
stuff.
There you go.
If you're watching on Twitch and you are on, this is my one little plea, putting the hat out. If you're watching on Twitch right now and you have Amazon Prime, you can click up above us here. I think right between me and Sherry maybe is where there's a sub thing, and you can gift. I think it's called gifting your sub. It's sort of a way to support good stuff and our Twitch stuff. Amazon, doesn't cost you any money. Amazon somehow gives us money. I don't follow the logic there.
All right, gents, I've got to go. Thank you so much for letting me crash.
All right.
It'll be a few months, so.
Enjoy the move.
Thank you. We'll be reporting from the home office in Pennsylvania next time.
Woo! Commonwealth coming at you.
All right, bye guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Take care. Am I good yet, Chris?
Yeah, it sounds good.
I know A chord. Hold on. I know this one too.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
I
So
got a
which-
gig next weekend, so all 5
Nice.
chords I know, just in sequence.
Which song? Which U2
In
songs have you
Australia,
learned?
right?
Yeah.
Whatever the easiest one is going to be my first project, which I can't imagine is too many of them because Edge is Edge. But
No, that's what I was saying. You, where is it here? Not that one. Lower third. Split screen. What the?
It's my that's my party set. It's Zeropa's birthday today, so that's why.
oh,
There you go. Happy birthday, Zeropa. There you go.
Nice.
I thought that was the screaming goat from that video.
Yeah, totally sound like.
All right, I got to get out of here too. So,
Take care.
all right, bye.
Bye.
See you, Colin.
If you ever need any
Okay.
help with podcast prep, let me know because I can certainly. I know you mentioned that somebody wanted to do Zeropa today, and you're like, "Oh, I don't have time to prep that," but feel free to reach out. I'm usually
Oh, that's good.
relatively
Cover my face.
available
You're relatively,
ish.
as long as it's not
Yeah.
Australian themed.
No. Well, summer's usually when I'm out and about mowing stuff and doing that kind of crap. So
Okay, so which chords do you know? Let's hear your repertoire.
oh god. I know this one. I know this one. I kind of know. I don't know the names of them, but nope. Kind of that. And then that. And then another one that's got a lot of finger stuff going on. I still suck, but I'm having fun. I think that's D something. D major.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm having
It's
fun.
hard to. I can't tell the chord.
Oh, I'm following along with this. I'm following along with a YouTube channel. It's like a guy in a hat, and he